So with all my pattern pieces cut, I've kind of left a little piece around each of it, and it doesn't really matter because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this down to my butcher's paper, which is just some parchment paper. I mean, you can use any scrap you've got, or tissue paper, or you can use tracing paper, which is what normal people use. Me, I find that I can get this butcher paper at Costco, so there's no real need for me to buy expensive see-through tissue-y paper when this will do just fine, especially because I have a board underneath this, which is just a cork board, one of those bulletin boards, and then I have a piece of felt on top of it so that I can mark out patterns and things. Now, if ink bleeds through onto this, I can put another piece of felt on it, it doesn't matter. Now, I'm going to take my measurement, which happens to be the size 22 here on the outside, and I'm going to trace all of this after, of course, I pin it down. So I'm going to take my pins and I'm going to pin this whole thing down so that each piece of this is all where it's supposed to be, and it'll stay that way. And then I'm going to take a permanent marker and I'm going to trace along these lines, and I'm going to mark all of the important pieces that I really need to know, and then I'm going to number the piece so that I know which piece I'm looking at. And this is going to be the piece that I mark up and I use and I change depending on my mock-up, depending on what I need to change, depending on my measurements. I haven't gotten through to this coat yet to see how much of a difference it's going to be for my bust and hip size, so we'll see. So now I have a piece pinned down, and it's a little hard to see, but I've got them at a little bit of an angle so that they're just above the pattern in a bunch of different directions, mostly just to keep it flat while I'm tracing. And then I'm going to make sure that while I'm tracing each of these lines, I'm going and making sure that this hasn't moved. I might put a couple of pins straight up and down in the corners for these square pieces. For some of the oddball shapes, it might take a little bit more. We'll see. Alright, now I'm going to take these pins. I'm going to take a couple of them out so you can see. I've got this permanent marker edge now here, and I'm just going to retrace that and all of these little markings, and then I'm going to number my pattern so that it knows it, and then I'm going to also copy down this part so that if it does get missing from its envelope, I can end up putting it back, even if I need to change sizes later on. It's better for all these pieces to be in at least one envelope, and I have one of those manila envelopes. I'll have to go find one. So while I've got the bodice all pinned out and laid out here, I'm going to show you why I do this. So see how each one of these pieces is kind of different? So I would have to cut this piece out for this size and this size and this size, and that would mess up this piece. So instead, I mark it like this with this black ink, and then if I need to go over and I need to do any of these other sizes, I go in with a different color and I just mark the size that I need. And that's this for now. See you back when I've got more pieces. So here I am. I've cut out all my pieces onto, or traced out all my pieces onto craft paper. And what I'm going to do now is take this polyester material and I'm going to make a mock-up. And the only reason I'm doing this in such a lightweight fabric is because I don't really need to know anything about the weight of the coat and how it will fit. I just need to make sure that I understand what I'm doing, and the best way I'm going to be able to do that and make sure that if I do have to add in improvements, I'll add it to this mock-up. And it's only for a Halloween costume anyway. So, I mean, this mock-up material is just going to be fine. And this is just one of those polyester, I don't know if you can see it, probably not, my phone camera is crap, but there's little dimples in it because it's a polyester woven, not, I don't know, it's breathable, and some people use it for the inside of masks instead of interfacing, but I'm going to use it for my mock-up. And this right now, I'm going to cut this out, and the reason I haven't finished off these edges and just cut all the way to this paper is because I'm literally going to cut this out as I cut the fabric out. So there's not a lot of point in fussy cutting my pattern until I've got it laid down. The only thing I would say is if you do have very minimal fabric, and you really have to make sure you can fit everything, then go in and cut all of these pieces all the way out in your pattern paper, and then put them onto your fabric, because otherwise you're going to end up wasting a lot of fabric that you didn't want. With this is just cheapy polyester, so I don't mind wasting it. And the scraps, which I have in the bin over there, they're going to go into other projects anyway, like making the little mask nose pieces. So it doesn't really matter. And once this mock-up's finished, that's probably what it'll be going to anyway. So while I finish cutting out all of my pieces out of my mock-up, and then I will read over my directions one more time, and I'm going to copy all of the markings that is on these pattern pieces down onto my polyester fabric, so that I know where all those pieces are supposed to go. Same thing as when I was marking my fabric, or when I will be marking my fabric, I should say. I want my fabric pattern circles, squares, triangles, all those things. I need them written down, and I want to be able to see them on my mock-up the same I'll see on my fabric, so that just in case they don't line up, I know now. Alright, I'm going to get back to that, and I'll see you guys later. So here we are. I have started putting together the pieces, and on the back here, these are my interfacing strips. So instead of interfacing the whole back of my piece, I've just marked it where the interfacing would have gone, which was be on my wrong side of my fabric, which I've also marked. And this way, I know visually, just by color, that this is the correct size. Because trust me, I make all kinds of mistakes without that. And then the back, I'm going to move it. Looks like this so far. Because of course, this is just the mock-up. And of course, the first thing I did wrong, sew these on the wrong side. So I'm really glad that I have had to do this on mock-up, because I can be assured that I would have done it wrong on the first one. And that would be bad. Now, these little basting stitches are my little stitches so that I know which way I'm supposed to iron seams, because this fabric cannot touch an iron. So I can't even pretend to iron this stuff. I can just finger press, and then I've got a couple of stitches keeping it in place. And those basting stitches really don't matter, both on the mock-up and later, because they can just come back out. And that's where I am. I have several thousand steps, I'm sure. I mean, there's only 32 on the pattern, but there you go.